for it.
All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Glass Half Sports. I am glad to have you. I'm sure Mike is as well. I am one half of your hosting duties, Nick Huffman. This is episode number 39. It is March 10th. We are rolling into the first part of 2022 here with a big show to come. Mike, how are you? Welcome back from your little hiatus now that the football season has restarted.
Yeah, thanks, man. We had a nice streak going. I just had to break it.
Yep.
We got to start a new one. I'm doing well. Still not 100%, but definitely welcome back to the land of the living and upright. So
I called Mike on Thursday, and all I got back was a picture of a trash can with nothing but like tissues and Gatorade bottles and water bottles like next to his bed. Wasn't even a picture of him. He might have been in the picture, but they have white sheets, and if you can't tell, Mike is missing some color even still. So it's not been the greatest week, but he's healthy and he's back, and I'm glad to have you, buddy.
thanks.
What do we have for the show today?
Big show as always. So first of all, I want to let everybody know where they can find us.
Damn straight.
As always, you can find us on NSN. That's Notoriety Sports Network on Facebook. That's where you should be watching the show live, and that is the place to comment in, and we'll be able to see your comments throughout the show. And then the platforms that we are on are Instagram, TikToks, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, and YouTube. I believe Patreon is on that list as well.
Yeah, and we do have a Twitch. We're just not posting on it.
We do a Patreon and a Twitch.
Yeah.
And our show rundown for the day. So we are going to talk about the Calvin Ridley indefinite suspension. We're going to do a segment called Combine Bullish or Bullshit.
Yep.
And now we're late night on cable again. Vikings best options for the offseason moving forward.
Correction, that actually had to be switched because there was some quarterback dominoes that started to fall. So the show looks a little bit different than we had anticipated.
So we're actually going to do a segment called Quarterback Dominoes
Yep.
are tipping, right? And then we're going to wrap up the show with our Wild Wolf Watch and an NBA check-in.
Yeah, fantastic. And if you can't or don't have the time to watch us live on Thursdays, you can always find us on MCN6 on the late night now because we cussed in the open, so you won't be able to find us during the day, which is going to be at 10 o'clock on Saturdays. So looking forward to seeing you guys there. As always, comment in. We're looking forward to or at least the DILF in the back is looking forward to getting all of your comments and posting them on the screen so we can get back to you live during the self-proclaimed.
That was not my comment, actually. That was from the mothership.
Oh, sure. And then we can launch right into the Calvin Ridley indefinite suspension. This was big. Sports gambling is turning into a more regular, everyday part of the sports society for fans to be involved a little bit more on a daily basis with DraftKings and FanDuel and all of these different places where you can go and actually gamble on the game. Calvin Ridley, who was dismissed from his team for mental health issues back to Florida last year after week 11, decided to place a couple of different wagers on a 3, a 5, and an 8-team parlay that totaled $1,500, and it was flagged by a regular, like a sports gambling regulation that the NFL uses called Genius. And now he's even though he bet with his team, indefinitely suspended for the next year. What are your thoughts on this, Mike?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. Actually.
Have at it.
So first of all, I'm very confused as to how he got caught because either his FanDuel account's name is at Calvin Ridley 1 or he's just why wouldn't you give your buddy the $1,500 to bet?
Yep.
The tweet comes out and says, well, I couldn't even watch football at that point. Then what in the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
You have more than enough money. $1,500 isn't anything for him anyway.
Right.
So why even, that's like us doing
Why
a
risk
$1 bet to lose our jobs. Dumb. The other thing about it is Calvin Ridley did have mental health issues last year.
Yes.
And I haven't seen anything in the news that's basically said that those mental health issues are resolved. So now Calvin Ridley, maybe this is the genius move in the background, is he doesn't want to play in 2022, doesn't want to claim mental health as the reason. He's still going to get paid for the season. You still get paid when you're suspended.
Not indefinitely, I don't believe, because T.O. didn't. When he's
suspended for the season, though. Really,
yeah.
Like it's an indefinite suspension for the 2022 season. So if it did get appealed, it would be like 8 games or 10 games, but it's not overlapping into the 2023 league year, if that makes sense.
Right.
So he's like, maybe Calvin Ridley is playing chess and we're all playing checkers, and he really didn't want to come out for camp again because of his mental health issues.
Yeah.
And he places to him $1 bet on a game that he couldn't even watch at that point.
Right. So
I don't know. I think it's I don't feel bad for Calvin Ridley in any way, shape, or form. I do think it's incorrect for athletes to bet on the sport that they're currently playing.
Correct. If you don't know who Pete Rose is, that would have been a great example.
Well, even if you're a collegiate athlete, you know the fact that you can't even play March Madness.
Yeah.
Because you're a collegiate athlete. I don't care if you're a collegiate football player in Division III, you're not to play March Madness for money. You sign a contract. Calvin Ridley signed a contract. He knew exactly what he was doing. And to say that he doesn't is just asinine.
I'm not going to say that he didn't know what he was doing. And I think how he got caught is that genius, that regulatory thing that is partnered with the NFL is designed to scan through all of the sports betting apps and look for anything that could correlate to said player.
Okay, so if I'm Calvin Ridley, why don't
member.
I give the $1,500 to you?
Great question. No, I agree.
If I really didn't want to get caught.
I think some of it is nepotism, right? But here's my biggest issue with the entire thing. If we're gonna start to hand out like indefinite suspensions, and situations are situational. We've said that a couple of different times on this show, especially in regards to when it comes to punishment of different NFL players. And I think he's going to be made an example of, because every time you turn on an NFL game right now, all you see is sports gambling and crypto commercials, right? So they have to do the NFL has to do its best to protect its competitive balance, right? And the shield, so to speak, and leave that comment up because we'll get to it here in a second game. But if you're going to do things like only suspend Ray Rice for punching his fiance in the face on camera in a Las Vegas elevator 2 games, or Adrian Peterson only really gets 6 to 8 games, but the team makes a different decision, or some of these other things, and then sports betting gets a year, that's where you're going to get some complaints as well, because then it doesn't seem like there's any type of fairness in regards to what the suspension could be for any actions. But more than that, there was a tweet that came out following this, and I believe it was from Jordan Davis or something from the Saints, talking about how, so he's going to get indefinitely suspended for the year. He's not going to be able to play football. That affects his livelihood and the future of his career. What about these NFL owners that tank? What about these NFL owners that are trying to lose football games or are paying their coaches to disrupt the same competitive balance that the NFL is trying to grandstand on for the implication of the current suspension? Like, that needs to be looked at more heavily to me. A full-fledged investigation needs to be launched. If this is how you're going to handle a player, an owner needs to be handled under a magnifying glass that is 100 times more scrutinous than a $1,500 8-game parlay from a player who is rightfully dismissed from his team. Would you agree?
I agree with pretty much everything you said. Other than the fact that I do agree with the punishment for Ridley, even though the punishments for the other players that you mentioned were incorrect.
Correct.
If that makes sense. So it's not that it's the entire thing is backwards and Ridley maybe should have only had a 2-game suspension.
No, I'm not saying
that. His suspension is correct and that they need to basically relook at their conduct policy. So Dylan, I apologize. I was incorrect. Ridley will be losing his salary in 2023.
I was going to say
in 2022.
Indefinite suspensions, like when T.O. was indefinitely suspended from Philadelphia. I know he lost.
I think that makes the entire thing even dumber for Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
Why bet $1,500 to lose $11 million?
I believe it's
unless you didn't want to play
in Atlanta, which makes sense right now if you look at Atlanta's situation. But that's a whole separate topic from this. What do you think? Do you think there should be? Do you think there should be? And do you think there will be an investigation launched into some of these owners? For example, the Brian Flores allegations against the owner in Miami who's tanking games. Because if that is truly the case, then that affects the same competitive balance and the same books that are being cooked.
I mean, I get it. The NFL at its core, though, unfortunately, is an old boys club. So I think that the Brian Flores thing, to be honest, it's going to be, yes, we investigated it. They've either maybe found no wrongdoing or, grounds that basically lead to a small fine. I don't think anything is really going to come out of it, even though Brian Flores is correct. I unfortunately think the only reason the Pittsburgh Steelers brought Louis Riddick in to interview is because of the diversity card. I don't think Louis Riddick actually has a chance in hell at the GM spot in Pittsburgh. And
Pittsburgh brought him. Pittsburgh brought in Brian Flores as well. So
Right.
and Tomlin, who is probably, if you're going to talk about who's going to front run or be the leader in any type of actual organizational or league-wide
it's gonna be
eventual change,
Tomlin.
it will be Tomlin. So it makes sense that he's defending.
But
and,
it leads me to my point
things
of
like
like
that.
the NFL is an old boys club, and these guys know how to go through the hoops and make it look
Clean.
a certain way, right? So while the NFL has a lot to clean up
Yeah.
and look inward at, I don't see it happening. If that makes sense.
And it's
They
unfortunate.
consider themselves too big to fail. And
I know.
They probably are.
Right. But and that's unfortunate because you look at the way that the rest of employment is across America right now. And I think in our lifetime, especially, we've seen a change from you work for me as a manager to anybody who is successful now works for their employees. Right. You look at people who are some of the best management or the best coaches that you've ever been around. Those individuals, they work for their players.
Right.
They work for their employees. And the NFL owners aren't being held to that standard. They're not necessarily leading from the front. You could go as far back as to say with the whole Gruden thing, with the way that got wrapped up on a Friday afternoon after the main media cycle was over, when, other teams in that division were probably Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys involved, and it all got just kind of swept under the rug, that they're the ones that are now getting special treatment instead of the athletes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sit right with me. And I hate to bring up the MLB, which is dead, but isn't this
The
some
what?
of the MLB baseball?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We used to have baseball in this country.
Right. Is this not some of the same complaints or issues that we see now with MLB owners? Special treatment, not really, like they don't work for their players. It's just
They don't understand that the players are the ones that are actually making them the money.
exactly. So I think there does need to be a little bit of a shift here. And if you're going to make an example out of one, you got to make an example out of the other.
I agree. You're not going to ever see sanctions or punishments brought up against NFL owners. I just don't see it. Dude, if they haven't kicked Dan Snyder out of the
Yeah.
owner's ring,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. He would be the first domino to fall. He's a terrible human being,
Yes.
and the stadium is literally falling apart.
Poop was falling on people.
Like, if any owner would be to get kicked out of that ring, it would be him first.
Yeah.
And the fact that within the last 2-3 years we haven't seen him removed,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. So with that, let's move on to our next segment. But first, let us know what your thoughts are on the Calvin Ridley situation. Do you agree with the punishment? Do you think players should be able to bet on their teams when they're inactive?
I don't think that they ever will be. I definitely think that will always be like, I don't think you're ever going to see an NFL athlete that'll even so much as get a sponsorship from like FanDuel or DraftKings or anything that's like actually legally or widely represented
Unless
by
they're
the
retired
NFL.
like the Mannings.
Or Pat McAfee, who's got like the FanDuel deal. Like that makes sense. Active players probably never, but definitely let us know what your guys' thoughts are on that. Was the punishment just for Calvin Ridley? Let us know in the comments if you think there should be an investigation launched on that owner in Miami. I'm blanking on his name at the current moment, which is why I'm just calling him the owner. But and we will get back to you either here live on the show or in the comments afterwards on social media. And we will move on now to the quarterback dominoes that have started to tip, and it has come fast and hard after the news of Aaron Rodgers returning to the Green Bay Packers. And I guess that's where we'll go ahead and start there, Mikey.
Yeah. As a Vikings fan, there's two sides to this coin.
Yes.
Unfortunate that they're going to continue to have a Hall of Fame quarterback play for them. I think this is going on to year 36 in a row or something ridiculous like this.
Yeah.
But they are not going to be able to afford anybody. Rodgers and Devontae Adams franchise tag alone is like $70 million of their $208 million cap.
Well, now there's no official like number or deal in place currently for Green Bay. And the tweet came out that it was going to be something that was team friendly, right? Like there will be no information.
Who said that it was going to be team friendly?
That would have been Rodgers who came out and tweeted that a cap friendly deal was going to be put in place. So
and he said that right after it was reported that he was going to be making $50 million a year. So this is him saying, "Oh, I'm not the villain,
I'm not the bad
like
guy.
usual." So I don't know if I believe it.
Yeah, and so I'd like to hand out some congratulations. First of all, congratulations to Green Bay, right? Like they got their quarterback. They're not going to move into mediocrity. I have to give credit where credit is due. But you know where else I think deserves should be fucking throwing a party right now? San Francisco, 4 more years of gifted playoff wins because Aaron Rodgers returned to Green Bay. Round of applause for San Francisco and getting that deal done, because that is who Aaron Rodgers is. He's going to get into the playoffs. He's going to run into a team that is obviously better than what he has been able to formulate in Green Bay, and he's going to get bounced out. There's a reason why he only has 1 Super Bowl. There's a reason why Brett only had 1 Super Bowl, and it's because they never address the actual issues. Let me ask you, did they fix the cap issue by bringing back Aaron and franchise tagging Davante Adams?
No.
Okay. Did they get Aaron Rodgers a second weapon that he might actually be able to trust? Because if you watch the playoff game, he wasn't throwing that ball to anybody but Davante.
Yep. And they, the draft is still imminent, and they could go, with a receiver in the draft.
Will they be able to afford somebody right now in free agency? If Amari Cooper gets cut.
I'm worried that they might not be able to afford a punter and a kicker. Like, they're going to be in cap strain right now.
Is Green Bay, even with Aaron there, let's say for the next 4 years, is it a free agent destination?
No.
Okay. And has Aaron Rodgers proven in the playoffs that he's able to do what is necessary to get them past what I believe his ceiling is in an NFC championship game? Okay. So Green Bay hasn't addressed anything. They are in the same spot that they have been in for the last 10 years.
I mean, to give them the credit, you're setting up your plate again for next year, right?
Yeah.
So as of right now, you're ready to win the NFC North again and lead a charge into the playoffs, because all you really need is Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Davante Adams,
right,
Kenny Clark, maybe a linebacker if you can find one, and then Jair.
Yeah.
And they have those pieces in place. The worry is, who are you going to put in front of 12?
Right.
Who else is he going to throw to if, God forbid, Davante Adams isn't open every play?
Right.
Like, I think that they're in bigger trouble than they think. And Aaron Rodgers is driving this train, and they don't even realize it.
Yeah, and I think the only reason, by the way, Green Bay fans, why he returned to Green Bay, and I'm going to make this very clear, the only 2 destinations that made sense for him, because he was still under contract. So the Green Bay Packers would have had to agree to where he was going to go, right? He would have had to look to the AFC. There's 2 AFC teams that were in the running, I believe, to actually get him. Denver. Yep. And I think he looked at Denver's division and said, I don't need to be playing.
Denver didn't show interest.
I don't believe that for a minute, with the way that the Russ thing, which we'll talk about next, played out. I don't believe he wanted to play Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr with a Josh McDaniels offense and a rapidly improving Las Vegas Raiders team 6 games out of the year. Unfortunately for Aaron, he has been in somewhat of a cupcake division his entire career, so he didn't want to do that. The other option would have been Pittsburgh. Okay, that's AFC. Did he want to play against Burrow, Lamar, and if the Cleveland Browns got anybody other than Baker Mayfield, did he want to play that defense or those defenses 6 times a year? No. So he cowered back to going to Green Bay. This was option C for him, not option A, because he didn't want to have to put his cards on the table.
And that's why I tend to believe the 4-year, $200 million deal as well, because Green Bay is stupid enough to give him any money that he wants. Oh, well, unfortunately, this is my option C. I'm going to need a little bit more money from you guys.
Yeah.
So he's been saying it for a year. He wanted to be the highest paid player in the NFL. So I don't understand how on one side of the coin he can be the highest paid player ever.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's a cap-friendly deal. It's not a cap-friendly deal.
Now, cap gymnastics, obviously, voidable years and all this other thing. They're really just playing with monopoly money at this point. But regardless of how much you pay him, I don't think it's going to matter. $50 million is not something that you pay a guy that hasn't won a Super Bowl in the last decade.
Right.
A guy that has time and time again shown that home field advantage is a disadvantage for the way that he wants to play ball.
It's interesting, man. Sometimes these owners, they pay $45 million to a quarterback who can't win a playoff game, or $50 million to a quarterback who can't win a playoff game. So it's interesting. With that, let us know what you guys think about Aaron Jeopardy Rodgers returning back to Green Bay. And let us know what you think about his contract details as well. With that, let's switch it over to Mr. Unlimited.
Yeah, and this is where I think me and you are going to disagree. I'm going to go ahead and start before you call me an idiot. Let me get all of the way through this. Okay. So I'm going to paint a picture for you that I just kind of painted for you of the AFC West over the next 2 to 3 years, right? Josh McDaniels winds up in Vegas, Derek Carr resigns. That team should realistically get better. They put more pieces around Max Crosby, the linebackers get better, things like that. You think they're going to improve, yes or no?
They should.
Okay, let's take a look at the Chargers. Justin Herbert right now, while still developing, seems to have all of the tools necessary to carry a franchise. They're in a new stadium. They're in a new city. Obviously, they're going to be kind of up against it with what the Rams just went through in the same stadium, trying to keep pace. And if they draft well, are they going to continue to get better?
They should.
Okay. Do you think in the next 2 to 3 years, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to take a step back that would put them below either one of those two teams?
Possibly in year 3.
Okay. Possibly. Now, let's look at Denver minus Russell Wilson. Sure, they've got Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, and they've got some good pieces. Is the offensive line any better than the offensive line that was in Seattle?
Yes.
By how much?
5 to 7 teams as far as like a ranking system.
Okay,
goes.
but it's not by any means like any elite offensive line.
No. I would say top half of the NFL for sure, though.
That defense, which is pretty good right now, is not necessarily young, but it's only going to get more expensive, just like what happened in Seattle. Yes or no?
It happens with every team, but here's a question for you. Were the Broncos not basically tied with the Raiders and Chargers with about 4 to 5 games left in the season? Yes or no?
I totally agree with you.
But and who was that playing quarterback at that time? And
Teddy.
They were sitting there?
Yeah. But my point being is with his contract and now the absence of all of the draft picks that Denver had to give up to get Russell, I'm going to step out on a limb and tell you 3 years from now, we're going to be looking at this as one of the biggest, like a Herschel Walker sized bust.
Ooh, I disagree.
For Denver, because it's not going to work. That division is not by any means taking any steps backwards. His cap number's only going to get worse. The other players around him are only going to get more expensive. The reason he left Seattle is because they couldn't surround him with talent, because they leveraged all of their early round picks and weren't good in the draft, right? That is who Denver is now. If Russ was smart, he would have gone to a team that was better suited to fit him in the long term.
So you think Denver? Okay.
I honestly, could you say that he is even a top 5 quarterback right now in the AFC?
Yes.
A top 5 quarterback.
Yes.
Name 5 quarterbacks that are better, that are worse.
Why would I go against you? Name 5 quarterbacks. I said he was top 5.
I'll take Mahomes for sure.
Okay.
I granted the situation over the next 2 to 3 years.
Would you take Herbert?
Probably.
Stop it.
Over the next 2 to 3 years, absolutely.
Stop it. All right. So that's all we need to know then. Nick would rather have Justin Herbert than Russell Wilson.
Since the
End
pick,
of the argument. Okay,
since the pick on the 1 yard line, Russ has 3 playoff wins
and a terrible team around him.
One of them he didn't score a touchdown in, and Blair Walsh missed a field goal. The other one, the majority of the other team's roster was hurt, and they won 17-9. And there's a third one in there where I think he only threw 1 touchdown. He is not the same Russ that won Super Bowls early in his career, because he's handcuffed himself, much like Aaron Rodgers, with these massive salaries.
Okay.
Go ahead.
From Denver's point of view, this is classic Elway. This says team is set up. You have young, explosive receivers. You need a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, not even the AFC, top 5 quarterback in the NFL to come in as a veteran for 2 to 3 years and lead you to deep playoff runs.
2 years.
Do you need a reminder of what happened the last time he brought in a veteran quarterback? Because they went to the Super Bowl, I believe, twice.
Yeah, and got mopped up once.
And who mopped him up?
Seattle.
Oh, and who was the quarterback of Seattle again? Okay. And he put up 43 points? Okay. So Russell Wilson will be bringing the Denver Broncos to at least the AFC Championship in the next 2 to 3 years.
That's their window, though. Russ wants to play for another 12 years. He says he's going to play till he's 45.
That's not going to happen in Denver. I can tell you that right now. This is from Denver's perspective.
All right.
From Russell Wilson's perspective, and here's the thing. Denver will have to at least get to the AFC Championship in the next 2 to 3 years for this trade to be successful.
Yes.
If they get there, though, this is definitely not a bust of a trade, because that's exactly what they were built for. They have the receivers. They have the weapons. Tim Patrick, Courtland Sutton, and Jerry Jeudy.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they did lose Font in the deal.
But he wasn't doing much in that offense.
He was young. Trust me, he's nasty. But that defense is built to win, and now they have Russell Wilson. From the Russell Wilson perspective, I would not have approved this trade.
I wouldn't have either.
Because of what you were saying about the division, and the division basically just getting better and more experience with all of the young quarterbacks. It's going to be very interesting to see which way the trade goes.
Yeah.
Because Seattle, who has a reputation of not drafting well, could bomb all of these picks that they just received.
Yeah.
Now, Dylan, credit to you. You actually had a comment earlier today that basically said that if Seattle can take Russell Wilson and switch him into Noah Fant, Deshaun Watson, and then the DB that they got, Shelby Harris, I believe.
No, that's a D lineman.
Or D lineman that they got. That would be a great trade for Seattle. If they keep the picks, I think that they're going to miss on 4 out of the 6, and it's going to be a great trade for Denver.
I don't think you're going to be able to get Deshaun to Seattle. I don't. That's a hard sell for me. It really is. Considering the city,
but now they have the picks to make the trade happen.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. But that team needs more than just a quarterback. It really does. You think Deshaun coming out of Houston wants to go back to a place because if they got to trade those picks to get him, where he's going to have a punctured lung and all this? No.
Here's the thing, though. You're starting over. You're basically, if you went and got Deshaun Watson, what you're doing is you're basically taking Russell Wilson, the quarterback that you had, and turning back time about 10 to 12 years. So you don't need the weapons just yet. That gives you a winning window. Hey, now we have 5 to 7 years to build the weapons around him.
Maybe. I'll give you some credit. I think that there are so many trades that happen where I think teams break even. I think, and you can live with what happened. I think
this is going to be a break-even trade.
I was going to say, this is going to be one of those ones where you look at this trade 3 years from now, and that's all they have is 3 years.
I would agree.
To get this right. You're going to be looking at this, and this is going to be a colossal fail.
Or a colossal win.
Or a colossal win. Yeah. So Denver's got to get it right now in order to make it happen. If you disagree, let us know in the comments. We'll be happy to get back to you either during or after the show. Can anyone source that?
It's actually, I believe, a Jared Lorenzen body with Russell Wilson photoshopped on top. No. Yeah. Let us know what you guys think about Prime Russ going to Denver. Is he going to be able to bring Denver over the top, especially from that division? That's probably one of the toughest in the AFC.
Yeah. And then from one AFC team trading into the NFC.
And from one of the toughest divisions in football to one of the weakest.
The weakest division in football. Carson Wentz gets traded from the Indianapolis Colts after being the maestro in the orchestrated collapse of the Indianapolis Colts last year to the Washington Commanders under Ron Rivera. How do you think this pans out? I don't think it ends well at all.
I feel for Carson Wentz because I like him as a person because he does do all of the right things as far as trying to be successful, I feel like. And then he just has horrible luck. Like, how many people in any sport ever have sprained 2 ankles within 10 seconds?
It's the way he plays. They talk about, and I reference Pat McAfee all the time.
He reminds me of a poor man's Andrew Luck.
Yeah. Like the poorest man's. Minus the cardboard box.
I think Taylor Heineke might be the poorest man's Andrew Luck. Yes, Carson Wentz is better than Taylor Heineke.
I would agree, but how much better? It's not.
What was the trade details on this one? 2 third-round picks?
I think it turned into a second, a third, and a 7th. By the time
it's a second, a third that could turn into a second if Wentz plays more than 70% of the snaps.
Yeah.
So I don't think that this was a bad trade for either side, honestly. If anything, I think the Colts could have probably tried to get more for him.
The only thing that I'll say here is good for the Colts. He obviously was the reason that they missed the playoffs. What they need is a quarterback, and we're going to get to this in a second because I'm going to filter something in here. They need a quarterback that's not going to check out of runs and is going to allow Jonathan Taylor, an MVP caliber quarterback, to just game manage with that defense, be somebody who's not an atrocious cap
and
hit.
actually, I would agree with you, and I wouldn't have been surprised, and I would have supported the fact that, like, what if you were Indy, why not offer Carson Wentz and a third or Carson Wentz for a third and Heineke?
Yeah.
Heineke could do that.
Heineke's got a little bit of that gunslinger in him. I think, and that's what they were trying to avoid. I really do.
You know who fits really well in Indy? We'll get to it.
Yep, we're going to get to it. But for me, like, good for the Colts. I think this is going to be something where it's a 1-year rental for the Commanders, and then Carson Wentz is going to wind up riding off into the sunset. I think this is his last year as an NFL quarterback. I don't see this working out. I agree. He's going to have great weapons. This by far is the best receiver room that he has ever stepped into. And everybody's that I saw on mainstream media yesterday going, 3,000 yards a year, 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio in really bad wide receiver rooms.
We as Minnesota fans know exactly what good stats and poor quarterback play looks like.
They do absolutely nothing for you when it matters, and he's not great enough when it matters. So this is not the long-term fix in Washington. Like, not at all.
I would agree, but it's not like a tiny little Band-Aid either. It's a good patch for, in my opinion, 2 to 3 years.
If they come in, let's fast forward. If we go into camp,
do you draft a quarterback this year if you're Washington?
Yeah, if you can find one in the later rounds. If you can find one in the later rounds.
In the later rounds of oh my god.
I'm just saying, listen, would you be surprised, fast forward, if we're going into camp next year and we start to hear rumors around it's an open quarterback competition between him and Heineke? Would you be surprised?
No, because that's not a detractor from Carson Wentz. I don't think Heineke's that bad.
So
it's more of a compliment to Taylor Heineke that there would be a competition than it would be taking away from Carson Wentz.
Fast forward a little bit more. We get closer to the season and all of a sudden it looks like Heineke's going to start. Would it be surprising?
It would be surprising because why do the move?
Exactly. But that's still the potential.
I still think Wentz is better. So here's the thing. You don't think that they could still find a suitor for Taylor Heineke somewhere?
I don't think they will because this is a 1-year rental. Why would you get rid of his successor?
Why trade away 2 third-round picks for a 1-year rental?
Because it's a new team and you need to be able to put butts in seats. I think that's all this was. And they had the cap room to do it.
I mean, if you're going to be butts in seats in Washington, just make sure to look up and
bring an umbrella.
Yeah.
And some Febreze.
By the way, because we're not going to talk about it, Jimmy G in Indy.
Okay, I'm glad you brought this up. Jimmy G makes sense in Indy. I have also already started to hear some smoke on Twitter this morning about it being Kirk Cousins in Indy. He fits so well in Indianapolis. And they could make it work. They really could. They really could make that work. The Vikings want to get out from under
I want
the Kirk
Cousins
thing.
Gone. I'll be clear.
Yes.
I really do. And the main reason is not because I'm unhappy with his quarterback play. I'm unhappy with the quarterback play tied to the contract.
Yes.
And tied to the attitude and 100%. Tied to the inability to lead and tied to the inability to make a play when you need to make a play.
Yep. The same things that Carson struggles with.
So I want Kirk Cousins gone. Unfortunately, from what Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell have been saying at the Combine, the fact that there's rumors that Kirk is some of the reason that KOC was even brought in.
No, I agree.
I don't see Kirk Cousins being moved this offseason.
I think the closer we get, and especially since some of the dominoes have fallen the way that they are, I think we would have lived with it, and it would have been an easier pill to swallow had Rodgers left the division. I think Rodgers returned to the division. I think some of the stuff you saw what you got for Russ,
but
you're seeing what you're getting
we were
for
in
Carson.
Somewhat of a rebuild. So whether or not there's another good team in the division for 2 years,
hit the button.
Is irrelevant.
So hit the button, because you were just talking about how Seattle now all of a sudden in the NFC is the draft capital to go out and get Deshaun Watson. Yes.
Yes.
If you trade Kirk to Indy, Kirk to Seattle, or Kirk to Houston, those are probably the 3 most likely landing spots for him at this moment. You could even toss Pittsburgh in there because none of these teams really want to rebuild. They just want to reset. They want to retool and get back to the playoffs because of who they are. If you do that and all of a sudden you have 2 first-round picks, would you trade those picks and maybe a player to go get Deshaun? Because
No.
on the 25th, we're going to figure out whether or not he's going to be suspended or he's going to be available for action. And Houston doesn't want him. And by them openly announcing that, the value on what they're going to get for them has dropped. The Vikings are in range. You want to talk about not needing to really retool the offensive line or do anything with it because now you have a mobile quarterback, a guy who has carried strapped teams into the playoffs? Yeah, I think you can unload Kirk now. And I think it needs to be addressed.
Well, we'll see. We'll talk about it more, but let's keep this thing on the rails here. Let us know what you think about the quarterback dominoes that are falling this offseason. This is the craziest quarterback offseason that I can remember.
And who's the next one to go?
I think it's going to be Jimmy G.
I really do.
I think it's going to be Jimmy G, the Indy. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be in the next 3 to 4 days.
He had surgery 4 days ago, and he can't throw a football until camp now.
Just wait. I mean, you just said it. All he needs to do is throw 5-yard dump offs.
Yeah, that's true. That's a tough one.
A semi-pro outside linebacker could do that. All right, moving on to Combine bullish or bullshit. Talking about the prospects from the NFL Combine. Are you bullish on these top prospects, or is the hype full of shit? And yes, we are on late night cable now.
Yeah, I prefer it that way. But
right.
Let's start with Desmond Ridder. You weren't here when we went over a lot of the quarterbacks the other week.
I was here.
I mean, you were here in spirit. But Desmond Ridder was a better, I when I looked at him and I watched him play and I was listening to his scouting grades and some of these other things, my immediate thought was, well, what's holding him back is he's not anything better than a B- athlete, right? Like he's got all the other tools
than that.
But he's a better athlete than that. And then I was like, well, maybe it's just because he's not a great thrower of the football. And then I saw him at the combine and I was like, well, I mean, better than a lot of guys you see chucking the rock around in subpar franchises right now. He's better than some starters that are out there. What is your honest thought now on Desmond Ridder as a potential developmental piece on a team?
So because I did miss the entire segment of the quarterback draft class, I see in this draft class not maybe one franchise guy.
Two.
And the rest of them are going to be those like Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to be. They're going to start for a few years for a team, put up 25 and 12, 30, 200 yards, and then somebody else is going to have them for 4 years.
Yeah.
None of these guys, except maybe one, will have a very, very successful career in the NFL. We've been saying it all along. It is a poor quarterback draft class.
Oh, I don't think.
And I think that watching Desmond Ridder this season,
yeah,
and then seeing the speed ramped up when they got to the college football playoff and him struggle,
yeah,
there's a reason for that. The competition he played and looked good against was not that good. The competition Malik Willis played and looked good against was not that good.
But there's a difference there. There was not that good, and then what do you want out of like when
Middle Tennessee State linebackers are really a big test
and dominated. I
don't care. Carson Wentz looked great, dominated against D1 AA competition. Trey Lance looked amazing, didn't even throw a pick for an entire season, dominated. Trash in the NFL so far. Yeah. There's a reason that these quarterbacks that they look for are actually playing people in college. Like even Trevor Lawrence, who played at an extremely high level and played Power 5 teams and dominated, is still not that great yet in the NFL.
True.
So I apologize. I think Desmond Ridder is not going to be a home run for a team on draft day.
If he falls into the third round, if you're the Vikings, do you take him?
See, and that's the kicker, is if these guys fall far enough, then you can justify them by the value. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, as unfortunate as it is that we have to talk about them this way, these guys are assets to their teams.
Yes.
So they are assets and not people. So when you look at the value of a player like Ritter in the third round, yes, I would like the Vikings to pick up a Ritter in the third round if he is available.
My thing is, I think everybody looked at it and went, oh, every year we're going to get 5 first-round quality quarterbacks. That was not sustainable. It was never going to be the case with guys coming out of college with the ebb and flow. Yeah, this year there's probably 1 first-round guy and somebody that's going to trade back into, pick 32 to get the second-round guy so they can get the 5th year.
I predict 3 quarterbacks going in the first round because teams are desperate for a quarterback.
I agree.
And when you're desperate, what's the old saying? Beggars can't be choosers,
Yep.
Nick. So, hey, you can throw the football, guy. Maybe not very well, but we need someone who can throw the football.
No, I just like I'm saying, it's not going to be one of these draft classes where you get 3 quarterbacks in the top 10 picks.
That's who I want the Vikings to get, Dylan.
Oh, stop it.
I think Carson Strong. What?
No.
You want a mobile quarterback just to have a mobile quarterback.
No.
You want the new toy on the shelf just so you can go home and say, hey, look at my new toy.
No.
I want a franchise quarterback who, in theory, could learn under a Kirk Cousins for a year and take over a team in 2023.
Sorry. Carson Strong's a 3rd round at best talent.
And that's, when did I say I want us to pick up our quarterback?
Yeah, the 3rd round.
Okay.
Not Carson Strong, though.
Let's move on to Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end out of Oregon.
Go Ducks. I've always been a little bit of an Oregon Ducks fan, but this guy puzzles me.
Always or since Chip Kelly in the sweet uniforms?
Since Chip Kelly.
Okay.
LaMichael James.
Oh, yeah.
Kenyon
Marcus
Barner.
Mariota.
Yeah.
No huddle.
Yeah. So, but my thing with Thibodeau is much like all people that kind of share any iteration of that last name is sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not.
Did you just make a Tom Thibodeau reference?
Yes, it did.
Oh, jeez.
But he disappears on tape from time to time. Okay, then he comes to the combine and everybody has questions about that. And he goes, don't worry, I'm going to do everything. All my pass drills, I'm going to run the 40, I'm going to do the bench, I'm going to blow you guys away. I'm a student of the game. Well, then he runs his 40 and he does his bench, puts on his tracksuit and goes home. The guy doesn't do any of his defensive line drills. So to me, there's something in the air around him that makes him a massive risk to draft where people project him, which is at the top half of the 1st round.
There's always, it does seem like almost every year, there's this edge player or two that's highly touted.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're kind of a bust. Like, as sad as it sounds.
Not this guy.
Jadeveon Clowney, though,
yeah,
is like a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Was absolutely dominant at times in college. Came out to the combine, was a large human being who ran really fast.
And hit really hard.
And got drafted earlier than he should have because of it.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that the guys that these guys still have to go through are animals themselves. Did you see Trevor Penning throwing people around at the combine?
No, I don't even know who that is.
Tackle from UNI. I am extremely impressed. Like, to me, he's one of the best linemen that is going under the radar right now.
Okay.
But I think if you line up Kayvon Thibodeau against Ekwonu or Penning or any of these tackles, I would rather have the tackle. I would rather have the tackle against Aiden Hutchinson, who disappears when he needs to make a play as well.
Yeah.
So I think Thibodeau and Hutchinson are kind of in the same breath. I wouldn't draft either one of them before pick 15 or 16.
And both of them
are going to be gone before then.
Before 10, I would assume both of them are going to be gone, which is absurd. Like, how can you look at
it's clout?
And I love that. Like, everybody goes to the combine. And we're going to talk about a guy in a second who had an outstanding combine, who I think is the exception to the rule.
I think
not
he's
the
the
rule
opposite
itself.
of what we've been talking about.
But you look at these guys, sometimes it's just look at the film. What do you see on film? Okay, he disappears sometimes. If that's a guy that you can live with as a rotational pass rusher, then he makes sense in a system where you've got other pass rushers who may be aging. But he doesn't make sense where that's your set the edge every down, consistent.
I mean, in an ideal world, would I take him opposite Danielle Hunter? Of course I would. But is he a Danielle Hunter himself?
No.
I don't think so.
But and if you're going to draft inside the top 15 for an edge rusher, you want a guy that's going to be Danielle Hunter.
Right.
And we didn't get him in the top 15.
So, yeah, I mean, I want to make it clear. I'm not trying to like trash these guys. the class itself is weighted differently than I would weigh it.
Yes.
They're putting guys ahead of other players that I wouldn't put up that high. Like the fact that Elam, the corner, is going like mid-second round is laughable.
Travesty.
It's an absolute travesty, tragicness.
I think that
it's terrible. Like there's so many good players in the second and third that I think are better than the first round players because these guys are just getting the publicity.
I think the volume of second and third round talent, and even fourth round, some people are saying early day 3, the volume of talent there is pushing guys into the first round.
Right.
Because
I don't belong there.
I really do think you take a look at like Sauce, like there are some names at the top of the board, probably 10 players that could be franchise pieces. And then I think there's a large gap.
Yep.
And then I think there's a lot of really good depth, which is another reason why I don't think the Carson Wentz thing made sense to me, because those 2 third-round picks could be starters for you this year.
Yep.
So like, we got to pump the brakes a little bit on some of the guys you're seeing at the top of the board right now. I would agree with that.
I think he's better than Thibodeau. I would rather have him than Thibodeau. And honestly, I might rather have him than Aiden Hutchinson. As far as long-term sustained success on a team.
Careful. Dylan says, how many QBs go inside the top 10? Yeah,
1.
I would say that too. If that.
And it's Bruce Willis's distant nephew.
All
right. Last player.
Jordan Davis.
Defensive tackle from Georgia.
Wow. 341 pounds, moving like that, jumping like that, and then you got him out on the field, and the guy looked like he was just floating on air. You want to talk about a guy that is definitely larger than Aaron Donald, but has all the traits of a guy that could disrupt not only the run game, but the pass game. Jordan, to me, was like Aaron Donald and Hicks from Chicago had a baby, and this is what popped out.
Yeah.
This guy's a freak
I would agree with that,
of
actually.
nature. With the size, speed, and explosiveness that he has. You want to talk about a guy that, based on his combine, his interviews, and then you go back and watch the film of him anchoring that Georgia defense that could catapult up to be the number 1 pick, this would be my guy.
Yeah, Jordan Davis is going to be what Quinnen Williams was supposed to be.
Oh, yeah.
Remember how Quinnen Williams was touted? Yeah, like Jordan Davis, if you are an NFL team and are missing any interior pressure whatsoever, go make that happen.
You found
because he will fix your entire interior of your defense.
He fixes your ends.
Yeah.
He frees up your ends. He frees up your linebackers. Like if somebody came to me today and was like, would you trade Dalvin Tomlinson and Michael Pierce to go up and get Jordan Davis?
Yeah,
yes.
You don't need to trade that's why as a Viking fan, we just don't need to, because we do have those 2 other guys that are more than serviceable at that spot. But like if I'm Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. You're telling me I can go get him. And then that allows Devin Bush to actually run around the way that he's supposed to.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to make a team in a 3-4 very happy.
Man, and who's picking at the top? Who's got the top 10 picks?
Yeah, we can pull up the
just real
order.
quick, because I just want to see who's up there.
All right, here. Let's see.
It's just so impressive.
So Jacksonville is number 1. And I think they're going to go with Aiden Hutchinson.
I do too. They need some edge presence.
Detroit is 2, and they might go with Thibodeau, to be honest.
Yep.
Houston is 3.
Yeah, I don't see that. They need more than just.
They need a lot.
Yeah.
New York is 4, and I think that they might go get Sauce.
But guess what? He would make sense in New York.
They literally have Quinnen Williams, don't they?
Yeah.
And they run a 3-4.
Continue. But it would make sense.
Okay, stop, Dylan. He's an interior defensive lineman, bud. He's not going to have statistics.
And not only
he makes
that,
statistics for the guys around him.
Not only that, take a look at the rest of Georgia's defense. How's he supposed to?
Davis is one of them combine warriors that end up on a practice squad in 4 years.
Clip that. When he wins Rookie of the Year or makes a Pro Bowl, I'm gonna laugh. That derangement that you just put up on the screen is the same reason why Philadelphia can't draft worth shit. Is takes like that. That's sad. That's sad. Credibility lost. I'm sorry.
Giants would be a good fit.
Yeah.
Giants would be a really good fit. That would help them stop that running game of Dallas, Washington, Philly.
Yep.
That would be a really good fit for him.
Who else? Who else is in that top 10 real quick?
6 is Carolina.
Well, they got a defensive tackle last year.
Giants again.
Yeah, see, I think it makes sense for him to go to New York.
Go to New York. Atlanta. I mean, if he falls to 8, he'd be perfect for Atlanta too. Yep. 9 is Denver, and then the Jets again.
Denver would make sense. You want to take some pressure off Chubb? You get Von Miller back. You got your quarterback. Jordan Davis makes a ton of sense for Denver.
Yep.
He's going to be a top 10. If anybody's smart, he's a top 10 guy. And he'll anchor your defense for the next 12 to 15 years if he stays healthy.
See, the thing about Jordan Davis is he is not your prototypical interior defensive lineman.
No.
He is just like a 6'3", 240 guy that was just made bigger. Like, that's why he's able to move he's 6'7", 341 pounds. Ran a 4.78 40. Like, he's just a big person. He doesn't have a belly.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he is literally just a person that's larger. And he's dominant because of it. So
yeah.
Let us know what you think. If there was anybody else that really showed out at the combine that we maybe didn't talk about today, and let us know your opinion on Jordan Davis, defense tackle from Georgia, Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end from Oregon, and Desmond Ridder, quarterback from Cincinnati.
Damn straight.
Do you guys mind if I cut in? I have a question on this.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's how tall he was. And my first thought was, is there precedence for an interior D lineman being 6'7" in the NFL and actually doing well? Like, I would worry that guys with actual technique could get underneath
him.
I mean,
but here's so I believe the NFL comes in ebbs and flows, right? And I think we've seen a lot of offensive lines get smaller and faster. Like, you look at what the Minnesota Vikings have truly struggled with running the football. You look at even what the Rams struggled with running the football in the Super Bowl. Small, agile, somewhat fragile offensive linemen against guys like Hicks. They have long careers because they just plug up 2 to 3 blockers at a time. And I mean, is there another 6'7" guy in the NFL right now?
Akeem Hicks is 6'5".
Yeah, he's 6'5", and he's
an interior guy. I
Yep.
mean, is he?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a defense tackle in the 3-4 system for Chicago.
And he's the whole reason Dalvin Cook doesn't run for 100 yards against Chicago.
Yeah. Gabe, I would absolutely agree with you if there's just different body types, right? Like, he's not a tall guy, even though he's 6'7", if that makes sense. Like, he just doesn't, I'm trying to explain he's not me that somebody can get underneath.
He's got great
He's just a big dude.
When he was
right?
running
Like,
his hoops, Gabe, he looked like a defensive end. Like, he
Yeah.
was at 45 degrees at that size. Like, he's got lean in mobility.
That's
It's
that's
crazy.
why I cut in, because I was actually surprised from looking at the video that he was 6'7", because he doesn't look proportionate.
No.
And it
that
is
way at
interesting
all.
too, because like the smallest height-wise position on the offensive line typically is center.
Yeah.
And then a guard and then tackles.
Yeah.
So he's going to be going against the smaller of the offensive linemen. And honestly, would you take if your life depended on it and Garrett Bradbury had to stop Jordan Davis?
my
I think I'm in
God.
trouble. Like,
I would not be surprised if at some point in Jordan Davis's career, he leads the league in batted passes.
pass breakups, yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. Quarterbacks are getting smaller. Centers are really small right now. He'll probably be in the middle of a
If
defense
you're a
that is first
5'11",
against the run.
6-foot center weighing 300 pounds, he's going to bull rush right through
you.
You just don't have enough.
Insane. It's insane. He's so impressive. So impressive. And you know what? Because I'm all hyped on college players, I think this will be a good time to do our card giveaway.
Sure.
And our opening.
Let's do it.
You ready to do this, Gabe?
I am, yeah.
All right, fantastic. So we're going to do our Panini Prism draft picks giveaway first from last week. So unfortunately, folks, there were only 3 people that shared the video. One of them, Dylan, Jordan, and then Matt, who is not a host of this show, so we did decide to let him compete, shared the picks or the episode or the clips on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth. So we're going to draw for either the autographed Marlon Tuapetitilolo card or whatever his name is, defensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles, or this Chase Young card right here. And in case you're unaware, this is This is numbered on here. 12 of 49. So this is a pretty valuable card as well. Mike, I'm going to let you do the honors and go ahead and blind draw.
Hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
Because clarify that, because I didn't follow. So you're saying that this drawing today is for one of those, or are we doing the pack opening?
Correct.
So this one is for last week, if you were with us,
Okay.
and followed
You
the
get to
directions.
choose one
You
of
get
the
to
two.
choose one of these two cards. We will reach out to you on social if you win. So who was it?
And then we're gonna open
A new
another
pack.
card, and you have to share today's video, and we'll explain that extremely well this week.
Yeah, so that way it's a
How
little
to
bit more
win.
clearly.
And
Good
hopefully
start.
we get some more entrants.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Who was it?
It is Jordan Dino.
I know that
from
he.
Instagram.
That's right. Shared it on his Instagram story. So Jordan, if you're watching, take his name out because we're gonna leave Matt and Dylan's in there for next
time.
week.
Sure.
Yeah. So Jordan Dino went ahead and won. He
Congratulations, Jordan.
has the ability to take home one of these two cards. We will take care of the shipping. We will take care of the handling, even if you are in a different state. So no worries there. And now we can move on to a new pack. And I'm going to let Mike explain this because he's a little bit better at the detail-oriented version of these explanations.
Okay. So this is the card giveaway contest.
Yes.
We are giving away any card out of this pack today
Yes.
or from the pack last week that has gone unclaimed. So you will not know which card of these two has been claimed until next week, but we'll be drawing your name at that point in time, so it'll be perfect.
Yep.
In order to be entered to win, there are unlimited entries as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can either take to Twitter, TikTok, or Facebook. On Twitter, you must take a screenshot and at us at Glass Half Sports with the card you want to win. On TikTok and Instagram, share the clip/pic and comment with the card you'd like to win. And on Facebook, you must go to our Facebook page at Glass Half Sports and share with the card that you would like to win. You must then tune in next Thursday to see the giveaway as we draw for the cards live.
Perfect. All right. So I let Matt pick the pack last week. I'll let you pick the pack this week. There's card casings in here already. Go ahead and pick any of those packs out of there, and then we'll switch over to this camera over here, Gabe, so we can get a good look. Bingo.
Nope.
Nope. Oh, he wants.
Just like at the grocery store, you always go for the furthest back.
Well, there we go. All righty. So we'll get this pack open here. We're going to switch. Perfect. So here's the pack, folks.
Should we do a quick shout out to 3 Diamond Sports as well?
Yeah. 3 Diamond Sports I believe they're in Burnsville. Great shop. They do a ton of card breaks, a ton of pack breaks on their social media feeds. This is where I pick these cards up from. If you're looking to start collecting some of these cards yourselves, would love to be involved with them at some point. But here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure. All right, here we go. So first card in the pack. You ready, Gabe?
Yes.
I know. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Juju Smith-Schuster, USC
Ooh,
card.
That's a sick one.
Kyler Murray, Oklahoma card. Oh, here we go. Here's the autographed one. This one is Cornell Powell from Clemson, autographed card. And then the one behind it, Saquon Barkley. Is this numbered? Oh, nope, this one is not. Saquon Barkley, Penn State. Ooh, Drew Brees, Purdue card. Then we've got Rondell Moore, Purdue card.
And Trey
Sermon. And last but not least, Jalen Waddle, Alabama. So those are the cards that are available to win. A lot better cards, if you ask me, than last week. So make sure you follow the directions from the beginning of the clip or the video. And who does Powell currently play for, Mike?
Kansas City Chiefs.
There we go. So he's going to be a contender
for
the next couple of years. And might get some value out of that one.
There's a lot of other cards, honestly, other than the signed one I would like. I personally would go for that Drew Brees first because that is
Drew Brees
so
Purdue card's
sick.
Pretty sick. The Saquon Barkley card I like quite a bit as well, but I would like to see him get healthy.
So again, make sure to share and with the information of which card you would like. It cannot be a blind share.
That's
that
right.
will not count as an entry.
Gotta
You
have
may
text.
enter as many times and as on as many platforms as you would like.
Mm-hmm.
If you do so on TikTok and Facebook, for example, that gets your name into the bowl twice.
Oh, this one's numbered as well. 97 out of 99. It's autographed and numbered.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, you ready to
Yeah, I'll let you
keep trucking along while we card up these?
Yep, I'm going to sleeve up some of these cards, and I'm going to let you kick into the next segment.
All righty. So thank you for doing that, Nick. Our next segment today is going to be our Wild Wolf Watch.
Hey, and depending on which team you're talking about currently.
Let's go. You want to go good news or bad news first?
So let's say the best for last. So let's talk about these floundering Minnesota Wild teams first.
You know, it was good to see us get back into the win column.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was a 5-2 victory. It was over the Rangers. But before that, I believe that we'd won 2 of our last 8. Absolutely kind of struggling.
11-4, or now we are 11-5, I believe. Or I'll flip that. 5-11 since the All-Star break. Not great.
Not good at all. The fortunate thing is, because we were down so many games and still in a good spot playoff race wise, we're basically still in that same spot. We haven't really truly dropped in the standings. I think the Blues overtook us, but that's about it. So in the Central Division, we're in third place. We have played one less game than the Blues, who are in second place, and we're only 2 points behind them. So that's basically a wash if we can win our next game. I know that's a big ask at this point. But yeah, I think it's exactly what we've talked about. Knowing that we had to play 44 games in 70 days or whatever the ridiculous statistic was.
Yeah.
The Wild are just a team that relies on their speed and relies on their chippiness and being able to move the puck quickly, and that high energy style of hockey where you're in and around the offensive net, making sure that you're getting those rebounds. You're making sure that teams aren't crossing your blue line easily. Making sure that cross passes for the other team are getting at least ricocheted. All of these different things that lead to good hockey. From our standpoint, it comes from a hustle perspective. And when you play that many games in a tight window and you start losing, so your morale has dropped, your energy and hustle has dropped drastically. And you're going to just lose games 6-3.
Raise the red flag. Hit the panic button. For me, listen, I thought, I was like, listen, we'll weather this. Well, it'll be okay. We'll get healthy. The offense will figure it out. It'll be able to carry us into the playoffs, etc., etc. But the more I watch, and I am, now that football is over and baseball is dead, watching more hockey, just like in the NFL, high-flying early season offenses don't wind up doing very well down the stretch. You gotta have size and some meat for the later parts of the season. You look at the Blues right now, playing incredibly well. Size. You look at other teams.
They've actually lost their last 4.
They've got size. They're going to be in the playoff hunt. You know that.
So will the Wild.
The Flyers played pretty damn well against us. They've got size. Vegas, when they're good.
Flyers are also never mind.
No, I get what you're saying. But later in the season, it's all about having like the
I disagree.
The size and strength.
I think if we played one game every 3 to 4 days at this point in the schedule.
But that's not the reality.
But it's just because our schedule got the schedule that we were given is the antithesis of our style of play. It's not technically the reality for all of NHL right now.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about it a month ago about how we had played 10 games less.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we were supposed to play a lot of Canadian teams early in the year that got canceled due to COVID. So now we have to make up those games on the back end. We have a ton of games smashed into a small amount of time. Like the Avalanche, who are leading our division, have still played 3 more games than us. We don't get 3 extra days at the end of the season to play those games. So now we're playing literally more games in less amount of days. And like having a smaller rest time is the worst possible thing if you're a team that relies on speed. Now, is it the time to hit the red flag? No.
Yes.
Here's why. This team is still technically exceeding expectations for the year.
Oh, but see,
yes,
this is
the
issue.
Your benchmark.
This is the issue.
Switch your bar. for the season, halfway through the season.
I'm gonna feed in a clip when we post this on social media, especially to cover up
You
that
cannot
cough,
have
of you saying, "I'm glad we got Kaprizov. Let's go win a cup." That
in the next
was the
4
goal.
to 5 years, Nick.
No, it's got to start now.
Yeah,
It's
it
gotta
is.
start
They're going to
now.
be a playoff team.
We were a playoff team last year.
Okay. And last year, did we not have the veterans around Kaprizov?
Thank you for giving me a
Okay,
segue.
so now we got rid of the veterans. We've widened our winning window, not shortened it.
Debatable based on the financial impact. We've talked about this. We'll move past it.
Oh, gosh. So you're saying in 2 years when we are past the Suter and Preezy thing, our window closes? No, it becomes even wider.
So here.
Great job, boys. Hey, you'll get back on track. You're going to be a playoff team. Take a breath. Skate hard. Let's go.
Here's what I'm going to say. If there's a deal to be made that doesn't leverage your future, you got to make it now. You have to.
Don't
to go
change
get
a thing, Bill.
To go get a
Mr.
defenseman.
Darren, if you're listening to my voice right now, don't change a thing.
Nobody's ever listening to you.
Dylan does.
Sometimes. But listen, it's you got it. If there's a deal to be made, my suggestion would be to make it. Because I do think that the grit would pay off in the playoffs. I really do. I love Dumba.
It's not about this year's playoffs, though, dude. That's what you don't get.
It is, though.
It's not. You cannot change the bar for your...
How hard is it to win a championship?
If you are entering into an NHL season, and at that point in time, you're like, hey, we're extremely young. It would be really cool to make the playoffs.
But that's...
And then halfway through the season, they've just been playing extremely good hockey, and they're sitting at the 1 seed. You're like, you can't go, oh, well, we need to win a cup or this season is a failure. No, 3 months ago, you were saying you'd be happy to make the freaking playoffs.
Listen,
you can't change your bar halfway through the season.
I said when we got off to this hot start, I said, just like, and we're going to talk about it with the Minnesota Timberwolves, situations are situational and beggars can't be choosers. You said it yourself. You got to get to a place to where because of how hard it is to stay healthy enough, to be relevant enough, to have the talent in house, the right coaching, the ownership, buy-in from the fan base, and all the things that come with winning a championship. When you have the opportunity, you got to seize it.
And all the opportunity is, all you need for the opportunity to win a championship is to get to the playoffs, which they will this year. So they'll have that opportunity this year. It doesn't have to happen this year, though, because guess what happens next year? All these guys come back.
No, I don't disagree with you, but I'm just saying, wouldn't you rather give yourself the best opportunity at the moment to win a championship?
Not if it handcuffs you for the next 2 to 3 years with a young roster. No.
That's why I said if you're going to make a trade that doesn't wind up leveraging your future, then
sure.
Do it.
Yeah, sure. If you can improve the team this year and the next 2 to 3 with a player, sure, go ahead. But don't trade away a player who's going to be great in 2 to 3 years.
I agree.
For a player that's maybe better now.
I agree. But I think like right now, draft collateral is an option for the Wild. I think some of our mid-level Iowa talent is an option for a trade if a team is out there that's going through a rebuild. Like you can't say Russell Wilson did the right thing or Seattle did the right thing or Denver did the right thing and then turn around and look at the Wild and be like, no, don't do anything. Stand pat. Sometimes it's just necessary to make a trade.
Totally different situations.
When you have the opportunity.
Denver doesn't have a young quarterback that is going to bring them to the playoffs this year without Russell Wilson. They didn't have that. They didn't have a quarterback like a Justin Herbert who could definitely lead them to a playoffs. Might not win the Super Bowl. Like this would be if the Chargers traded for Russell Wilson because yeah, Herbert can bring us to the playoffs, but Wilson is going to bring us over the hump. And now we've just sacrificed our future. No, that's not what, no.
And I don't agree.
Comparable situations.
And I don't agree with doing that. I guess what this boils down to for me is I'm really tired of Minnesota sports teams that because we've been so mediocre, we finally get to the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, first round of the playoffs is enough.
The fact is, Nicholas, the Wild weren't even really technically a playoff type team at the beginning of the year. Teams were like, do you remember talking to Giles at the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
And he said himself, I would be surprised and happy if the Wild can make the playoffs this year with the youth that they have.
Fair enough.
So the bar can't change. If we make the playoffs, which we're going to, be happy because guess what? In a 7-game series, I'm still betting on the Wild.
I don't know. Depends on who we draw. And guess what? That plays into how we play now.
It does, but I'm not. What's the
schedule for the Wild coming up here, Gabe? Did he die?
No, he's back there. I know he is.
All right. So coming up for the Minnesota Wild off this
just
win
beat the Rangers
against the Rangers, we have the Red Wings. Columbus, is that the Blue Jackets?
That's the Blue Jackets.
Yep. Nashville, who's playing really well. Boston, who seems to be playing pretty well. And that'll be the 4 games.
Split them.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, win the ones on the road, please, because those are going to be the easier teams to win against.
The ones at home are going to be tough. For some reason, Nashville has got it this year, and Boston's always good.
But this is a perfect example of my point. Look at how many games we're playing. So now we play at Detroit. We're in Detroit, Michigan.
Yep.
On Thursday. And then we're in Columbus, Ohio. 24 hours later, puck drop again.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a 24-year-old who is maybe better than the 28-year-old next to you because you can skate a little harder, that type of a stretch makes that harder.
Yeah.
And then you have 1 day of travel and rest on the 12th, and then you play again on the 13th. So finally, next week, that's when hopefully we can kind of get a rhythm going because we have a couple days off. We're at home.
Yeah.
These boys can rest up and hopefully start playing better hockey.
Yeah, I would agree. So split them and try to regroup a little bit and catch a rhythm.
So speaking of hockey,
get a rhythm.
We do have one other hockey thing to maybe touch on.
What?
Well, it's Minnesota. It's early March.
State tourney.
Why are the Wild out of town?
State tourney.
It's the state tournament. So just a quick congratulations to all of the hockey rats out there who are going to be competing at the XL Energy Center here over the next few days. I know the school that I actually am employed by and work at did make it. So nice. I believe that they're going to be playing the Moorhead Spuds tonight.
Okay.
And congratulations to all the other guys with great hockey hair.
I was going to say, that's my favorite part of Minnesota State Hockey Week is the
hockey
Mr. Minnesota Hockey Team or whatever.
Hockey hair video, yep. So congratulations to all those guys. Best of luck. Just enjoy it. Soak it in. It's awesome to be done.
Would I be allowed to enter, or am I too old at this point with my flow?
Have you noticed the curls that I got going as well? So, yeah. I'm ready for the state hockey tournament. So, all right, with that, we'll switch on over to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, from grimace to joy with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
So,
steady and ready.
Question for you.
Yeah.
And Gabe, question for you too.
Standing by.
What were you guys up to in 2004?
I was 8 years old. And
so like second grade.
I assume enjoying all the things that an 8-year-old would enjoy. Fruity Pebbles and Saturday morning cartoons.
Football cards.
Yeah.
I was working at Corks Wine and Spirits in Woodbury, and it was the first year I ever watched Timberwolves basketball.
Nice.
They had TVs in the liquor store, and I actually really fell in love with it that year.
Nice. Yeah, and I was 11, playing basketball and loving the Wolves at the time. So the reason I asked, guys, is the Wolves just won their 6th straight, and the last time they did so was the year 2004.
Wow.
When we had Latrell Sprewell, Kevin Garnett, Sam Cassell. So
Wally Zerbiak, Mark
This
Madsen.
is an exciting generational talent that we're seeing on the hardwood.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah. Relatively speaking. I mean, 18 years, right? That's generation.
So I think health and continuity, because they have all been on the floor together, has been the ingredient for this run, right? We've had Pat Bev was out for a while. Malik Beasley wasn't playing well. And then Ant's offense disappeared. And then it was the All-Star. Then we had some tough games. This seems to be the right formula, right? With this lineup, I think they got it right. This is something where I don't make any moves. I think they've got it all pretty much hemmed up. I was going to read off some interesting stats for you because I was trying to figure out why they were so good. And this blew my mind when I looked at this the other day. 6 points, 4% by field goal, 2% 3-point percentage, and a 3% increase in field goal percentage on the road versus when we play at home. Our offense is more efficient on the road than it is at home. Hey, guess what you're going to need in a playoff series? Efficient offense on the road.
Yep.
So this, I'm pretty stoked. This is Pat Bev seems to be that culture piece that Minnesota has needed, and Malik Beasley has seemingly found his role as the 3-and-D guy that we didn't have early in the year.
Shout out to Malik Beasley for breaking the team record in 3-pointers made in a game. I believe he hit 11 last night against the Thunder as well. Honestly, dude, this is a team whose role players know their role and execute that role to perfection. Naz Reid coming off the bench and giving you 22 points and 10 plus rebounds is insane. Jordan McLaughlin coming off the bench and giving you 6 assists and understanding, hey, I don't even have to shoot the ball to have a successful night.
Vandy's got a 60% field goal percentage.
Vandy and plays ridiculous defense. The fact that we're holding teams to the 80-point mark in today's NBA,
insane.
Yes, these are not great teams and their stars are out, but
that's what you do to those
defense.
Teams.
That's what you're supposed to do to these teams.
Yeah. And just a heads up, because me and Matt talked about this last week. The Minnesota Timberwolves are currently 3 to 4 games back of the 4 seed.
Yep.
If we go, and I asked Matt this question, if Chris Finch manages to get them to the 5 seed or higher by season's end, is he the coach of the year?
Possibly.
I don't see anybody else that could.
Who's the head coach of the Grizzlies? Because the Grizzlies are sitting at 2 right now, which is insane.
I think
the Grizzlies are basically the Wolves.
Well, I think it's a little different in Memphis because now I love Ant. I love Cat. And I think D'Lo's great. Ja Morant, and we're going to get to him at the end of the show, is otherworldly. I watch him play, and I see shades of Derrick Rose early in Chicago. He's
like a Derrick Rose combined with an AI almost.
Oh, he's Russell Westbrook with a jumper.
I mean, a lot of people are Russell Westbrook with a jumper, but
no, like athleticism wise, it's.
Yeah, I mean, so the Western Conference standings right now, you have Suns, Grizzlies, Warriors, all really tight. There's a few game drop off. Jazz, Mavericks, Nuggets, Wolves, all within 4 games.
Yep.
So, I mean, the Wolves are within 4 games of being the 4 seed.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is the Wolves have won their last 6. They're 8-2 in their last 10. But teams in front of them are not losing. The Nuggets are 9-1 in their last 10. The Mavericks are 7-3.
Yeah.
The Jazz are 7-3. So they're just not losing the games in order for us to pick them up.
Right.
Now, the fortunate thing is the Clippers and the Lakers, who are behind us, are losing these games. So we have almost a 4-game lead on the 8 seed right now. We almost have the 7 seed locked in.
Yeah.
The Lakers are
save those highlights.
Almost dropping to 11.
Yeah.
Like they're at 9 right now and they are sliding. They're 2-8 in their last 10, which is this tied for the worst record in the West right now. It's going to be an interesting final stretch of games here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the Wolves, they have a few easy games and then it gets really difficult.
Well, let's take a look at that schedule if Gabe can pull it up for us. Dun, 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 dun.
You're jerking me around like a rag doll back here. Hold on.
Well, the highlights for Ja Morant were for the end of the show.
He brought up Ja Morant.
I'm sorry. He's hard not to talk about right now. We'll get to it.
Let's never fight again.
We can watch Ja Morant highlights the whole
What do
show
we want?
if
We want the
T-Wolf schedule, please.
Here we go. Got it.
Boom. So we did beat OKC last night. So tomorrow we will play Orlando and then make the short trip up the coast to Miami before we get a day off. And then we play who do we got
San
there?
Antonio.
San Antonio. And then the floundering Los Angeles Lakers. So are we going to see a 10-game win streak?
Yes, and that's what it is. So we'll talk about it next show, but I do want to preview it here today. The next 4 games for the Wolves are very winnable.
Gotta win them.
They basically almost have to win them because after the Lakers on Wednesday, March 16th, our next 6 games, Bucks, Mavericks, Suns, Mavericks, Celtics, Raptors, Nuggets.
Tough. But guess what?
That's
There's
an
games in there.
Extremely tough stretch, though.
If you take these 4 and then take the ones in the Western Conference that you need to take in that following stretch, you could get the 4 seed.
You could possibly. Here's the thing: if you for sure win these 4, surprise a few teams, steal a 1 or 2 there, you could pop up into the 3 seed. It's within reach.
Hey, and
Do I expect it? Am I going to be pissed off next week when they're not sitting there? No, because the bar doesn't change. I want the Wolves to make the playoffs this year because I'm going to win the bet. And what was the bet again?
Well, you will not have to.
What was the bet again? So I won't have to do the Neard, but you'll have to.
I don't remember. We'll have to go back and look at the clip. I honestly don't remember. I don't.
We were so excited for my Neard, but I knew it wasn't going to happen.
But yeah, no, good things to come for the Timberwolves. And I think not to look into the offseason too early. Don't change nothing. Let the guys you have develop. Retain Pat Bev as a culture piece. Maybe gain a little more depth on the bench if we even need it through the draft, I'm saying.
Yep.
But like take what you get, take what the good Lord gives you, right? And just keep pushing. Because they
just
are
develop
locked
the
in.
players that you currently have. In the
I'm
locker
so
room, please.
excited to see playoff.
That is so cool, Gabe.
Whoa,
that's awesome. I'm sorry, but that is awesome.
Never apologize for complimenting me.
I'm so excited to see playoff Ant.
Yeah, me too.
That's gonna be so fun to watch.
It's weird. I feel like I'm talking to you like a few days from now.
Yeah, what's Monday like?
It's all right.
That was strong.
Thanks. Not as strong as this graphic, though. That
was awesome, Gabe. Credit to the producer.
All righty. So I think that kind of wraps up what we have on the Timberwolves.
And the
if
Minnesota
you
Wild.
are a fan of either team, let us know your thoughts on our breakdown of the current state of the team and the week ahead. We will, of course, check in on the Wild and Wolves next week, which will be St. Patrick's Day.
Woo!
So hopefully the Wild can split the next 4 games, and we're hoping for a 10-game win streak for the Timberwolves.
I will go buy, if the Wolves get to 10 straight wins, I will go buy and wear next week one of those obnoxious looking like fake chains with like the Wolves logo on it. I will wear it out for St. Patrick's Day if they get to 10 straight wins.
I made sure to wear my Wolves hat today.
Attaboy. So excited to hear from you guys in the comment section, and then we can kind of zoom out on the NBA, and we'll kind of fall right into the John Morant conversation that we were having before. We can touch on it briefly. The guy has just looked unbelievable. I was watching a game last week where he had like a block on defense or some crazy like that, or it was an emphatic dunk, and then 2 plays later, Steven Adams tosses a full court pass to him at the buzzer. He catches it in midair like a wide receiver and gets the shot off at the buzzer before the buzzer sounds, before his feet touches the ground, and it goes in. Just everything the guy does is otherworldly.
I have to say that there's superstars in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then there's that elite top 3 or 4 players in the league. And those 3 or 4 guys do things on a basketball court that when you watch it on TV, it's impressive. But when you see it in real, like live, you're sitting in the second row, that is unhuman type display of athletic ability. The things that Ja Morant does, and the player that I would right now put right there with him as far as jaw-dropping athletic ability on a basketball court, is going to be Steph Curry. Did you see the Steph Curry get fouled at the free throw line and just throw it up and swoosh? Like the things that these two are doing, it's supreme max confidence in your abilities and understanding I can do pretty much anything I want to with my body right now. And it is absolutely a joy to watch. Now, does it automatically make Ja the MVP? For having basically, he had a great regular season leading up to it.
Right.
But really 15-game stretch of unbelievable play.
Right.
Does that make him the MVP?
Here's what I'm going to tell you. And I have this conversation with at least one person every year regarding any MVP conversation.
Yep.
Most valuable player.
To their team.
Not
We
most,
agree on this one, actually.
not most
Believe it or
valuable
not,
player
folks.
to a front runner. Not most valuable player to a star-studded team.
Right.
Most valuable player to his team. And I'll even make an argument, most valuable player to the league. And what is important for the league.
It's more so, in my opinion, most valuable player
I
on
think-
their team. But
I
sure.
think that takes a little bit of a backseat. I would agree with you. But if you were to ask me, like Dylan said earlier, Joel Embiid is the best player in the NBA. If you take Joel Embiid off the Sixers, considering they have Harden, Tobias Harris, and some other
Right.
really good pieces, are the Sixers still a playoff team? Probably. If you take Ja Morant off the Grizzlies, they're a 30-win team.
Right.
At best.
And honestly, there's only one other player I would truly put in that conversation. And I think, well, actually, there's two. I will say there's two. There's one north of the border,
Right.
and then there's one really close to the northern border.
Okay.
DeMar DeRozan for the Raptors is probably the best, true, most valuable player to
DeRozan
his
plays
team.
in Chicago.
Or Chicago. Dang it. I knew that.
We're going to get to him next.
DeRozan to his team and that mid-range game that he brings is possibly the MVP.
Yep.
Karl Anthony Towns is the other one. If you take Big Cat away from this Timberwolves team, even though they've been playing so well together, what?
I'm going to tell you, fuck no. Because I think you could supplement all of what Cat does with what we have in post play and give
I don't
the
think
rest of
so.
it to Anthony Edwards and D'Lo. I really do. I really do. I think that's the only reason why Cat can't be in the MVP conversation.
That's fair.
I'm sorry. It's got to be
How
Ja.
many-
Hands down has
So-
to be Ja.
So that's fine. My follow-up question would be, how many Timberwolves games have you watched this year?
15?
Okay. Fair enough.
15 games?
So
Now-
DeMar DeRozan and that guy from Toronto who now plays in Chicago.
There's something special about a guy who does what he has been able to do anytime it happens in Chicago.
Sure.
I go back and I watch the highlights. I look at how that team plays together. Like when he was in Toronto, I was like, oh, he's a pretty good player. And then he went to San Antonio and I was like, he'll probably learn something from Pop, right? And then they cut him loose from San Antonio and he got to a basketball city and they were like, you're the guy. Levine's the 2, Lonzo's the 3. You're the guy. And he was like, fucking bring it on, and has worn it like a champion. The best fourth. You could make an argument right now that he is top 5 in the world as a basketball player. Right
Yep.
now. Not past, not future. Right now. There's not many guys you'd take over DeMar DeRozan.
Agreed. Which is surprising because of his
Incredible.
career path, right?
Yeah.
He's always been an above average, good, really solid player.
For
But
it to
in the right situation in Chicago, like you said,
yes.
the fact and ability he has to take over games. Yeah, I think he's probably my front runner for MVP.
Yeah. Like if it's not Ja, it's gotta be DeMar. Like it's so weird to see so late in his career for him to make this step. It is mind-boggling.
Can I give an award for the MVD, most valuable diva?
Sure.
LeBron James.
Westbrook.
No, LeBron. Because even on a team of divas,
He's the diva of divas.
he's the diva. So there you go, Dylan. There's my 10 seconds of trashing the Lakers today.
If anybody has LeBron's address, I will Amazon him a Diva Women's Championship from back in the day for the WWE. He deserves to win something this year.
I did find it extremely funny that a fan told him the other day that his
Don't kick me
bubble
out.
championship
Fraud.
was a fraud, but please don't kick me out of the game.
Hey, for those of us who don't know the backstory on this, can you just update that really quick?
Yeah, so
What this is like?
Oh, yeah.
The LeBron thing.
So what 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, a fan was chirping LeBron
LeBron had them kicked out of the
and
game.
LeBron had them removed from the game. So I think it was 2 nights ago, a fan was chirping LeBron and basically said that the championship that he won during COVID in the bubble was a fraud championship, but please don't kick me out of the game.
Do they know like what the fan was chirping the whole time? Like, I mean, was it just
Now
way
the
out
fan
of
that he
pocket,
had
or was it-
removed? Like, I don't disagree with the fact that that fan was saying things that were across the line.
The first time. Yes.
Yeah, the first fan, I believe it was in Indiana.
And they've got a little bit of a track record.
And they have a track record going back to like Michael Jordan playing there.
Yeah.
But the fan in Indiana wished ill on Bronny, his son. And you just keep family out of it. But
Colby.
yeah.
All right.
That's kind of what happened there.
I have 2 questions to wrap this segment. One on Ja, one on DeMar.
All right.
Is what Ja Morant is doing sustainable? I ask this because if you look at Westbrook, Rose, any slender, high-flying, score-first point guards, they seem to wear like running backs in the NFL. Is what he's doing sustainable to the point to where he will be able to be an all-time great?
So what he was doing in the first half of the season is definitely sustainable, and it leads to him being an all-time great.
Yep.
What he has been doing in the past 15 games is something that is unforgettable for years to come, but is definitely not sustainable.
Okay, I would agree. 2, with DeMar DeRozan, do you think this is the new status quo for him moving forward for years to come in his career? I don't know how much of it he has
Like,
left.
does this change how he is viewed in the NBA's eyes?
Yeah. Do you now look at DeMar DeRozan like going into next year and you go, okay, well, it's like Ja, it's, 1, 2, 3 DeRozan. Like, is this the new
NBA is very weird to me with this, because the NFL is so cutthroat, but it's so easy to tell. The NFL is extremely, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
The NBA is definitely more so, what have you ever done? So, like, there's a reason Melo is on the Lakers now and is even playing as much as he is. It's because he was once Melo.
And there's a reason why Russ is going to make $47 million. This
Right.
year.
The NBA is weird like that. So because of that, yes.
Okay.
This is the new benchmark that the NBA is going to continue to compare DeMar to. Now, is DeMar going to continue to be able to play at that level?
That's the question.
For his sake,
I hope
he
so.
is.
Yeah.
Just because even if he drops a little bit back to his old self, which was a great basketball player in the NBA, a great facilitator, a starter, he's going to be considered a drop-off.
I really hope that he just. I hope this is the rest of his career. I really do. It's so fun to watch.
It's also, in my opinion, Chicago is definitely a team in the NBA that when they're good, the NBA is just cooler.
It's so much better when Chicago is good. You're 100% correct.
Yeah, it's like when the Yankees are bad. Baseball's just more fun to watch when the Yankees are horrible.
They are a legitimate post presence away from being a finalist contender for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's not going to happen because of draft position and all of this.
Yeah.
But can you imagine what would happen if Chet Holmgren somehow managed to be wearing Bulls uniforms next year?
I mean, if
running the floor with Levine and Ball and DeMar.
Evan Mobley.
Yeah. Like, that would be, question.
For the fans.
Would the Bulls, with Chet Holmgren, be able to win more than 73 games?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Dude, that would be, like you said, though, they're just missing a big.
They really are.
And he would be a very interesting big to add who can shoot and run the floor.
Why are we not talking about their head coach as potential coach of the year candidate?
Because
DeMar?
he's doing what he should be doing because of the talent, right?
Fair.
A coach of the year
Fair.
candidate, in my opinion, is a coach who takes a team that's middle of the road and elevates that
Fair.
team, right?
Fair. All right. Well, let us know what you guys think on Ja Morant and DeMar DeRozan and the incredible seasons that they have both had. What does the future have in store for either one of them? And we will get back to you can't get back to you here on the show because the show's over, but we will get back to you on social media afterwards. Thanks for joining us. Good show today, Mike. I appreciate you coming back. I felt a little bit more at home with you in the studio.
Yeah, even though you and Gabe, really preferred the other mensing. I hear
knew-
all, Gabe.
I knew that was going to come back and bite us. Gabe,
good to
see,
be
I told you
back.
we shouldn't have put that on air.
Well, I always try to speak from the heart. That's all I can say.
I mean, you're honest. I'll
apologize.
give you that. You're a genuine character.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed the show, Mike, where can they find us?
As always, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, and Patreon and Twitch. And because we did have a little bit of a sailor vocabulary today, you can find us on MCN6 Saturdays, late night at 10 p.m.
That's right. For the card giveaway, keep in mind, guys, unlimited entries. Make sure you share with text, if available, on all platforms that Mike just listed off, where you will be able to find it. We will give away another card next week. Congratulations to Jordan Dino on winning either the Chase Young or the, I'm just going to say Eagles
Or the
defensive line card.
Second-year defensive lineman from the Philadelphia Eagles.
There you go. Make sure you tune in next week with us here, either live on Notoriety Sports Network or on our Facebook page at Glass Half Sports, where we will be talking a little bit more football. I'm sure as dominoes continue to fall, guys like Bobby Wagner got cut. Guys like Amari Cooper due to be doing
Kyle
the same.
Van Noy got cut.
Exactly. We do have some big fights coming up with both Canelo and Ryan Garcia. We hopefully will get a little bit of an update on the MLB lockout, as they are getting ready to cancel another 2 series, which will take out the first 2 weeks of the MLB season. What else might be going on in the sports world, Mike? Not much, right? NBA playoffs.
Not
getting close?
much. As the weather warms here, start breaking out those bicycles.
That's right.
Just cuz.
Just cuz. Just cuz.
It's only $4 and some cents right now per gallon. So
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to seeing you next week. As always, thank you for joining us this week. Stay warm, stay safe, take care.
MBC. No relation to NBC.